All right, babes, it's Bimini, and we are back with a brand new episode of The Pieces. And this week, I am joined by comedic genius, actor, children's author, and now #1 podcaster, David Walliams. David Walliams, how are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I got to meet you at Heathrow Airport in the lounge, and I was very starstruck seeing you. Very excited to meet you. I had to go over and speak to you.
That's hilarious when someone says that to me, because I'm the same to you. And I messaged my mum straight away. She's going to love this episode.
I like your mum. Always have.
Yeah, she's fab. She's great. She loves it. I love my mum too.
Where is your mum?
She's in Norfolk currently.
Oh, okay. It's a short ride on a private jet.
But listen.
I might go and see her later.
Taylor Swift, get hers out. She loves it, you know. She's the #1. What is it? #1 jet fueler. She does it all. But yeah, no, Norfolk's not far. Have you been to Norfolk?
I have been to Norfolk. I've worked there. I've been there a few times. They used to make Trisha up in Norwich. Yes. Yeah. So me and Matt once did a comic relief special episode with Trisha. Well, we did a sketch on the Trisha set, where Matt was Vicky Pollard and I was I was a long lost dad or something.
Vicky.
And she's ended up sort of, it was some like lap dance. It was really weird. I mean, you could probably find it on YouTube, but it was funny.
I loved Trisha.
Meeting Trisha. I love Trisha.
She's fab. Where is she now?
So much more than Jeremy Kyle.
Oh yeah, she was yes. There was something
caring
about her. She was caring,
wasn't she?
Do you, Vicky Pollard? Was she based on someone in Norfolk?
No. Well, she's from Bristol in the show, but Matt, he did a thing where he was interviewing people as part of his student course. He was doing a drama course there, and he just went up to people and said, "How are you?" And most people said, "Oh, I'm fine," or whatever. And then this one guy actually went, "No, but I'm all right," or something. Nothing. Didn't really know. That, and Matt used to do that voice over and over again, and it made us both laugh a lot.
Well, it is.
And then eventually, you know, we came up with something. But yeah, that's where that character came from.
I always heard it was based off someone in Norfolk, and it made sense. There was always lots of rumours, right? But like, I always thought it was my cousin.
Why would the character not have a Norfolk? He would have a Norfolk accent. Because it's quite
similar. Norfolk accent and Bristol, like Bristol, the West and East country.
Like that, isn't it? Bristol.
Bristol's a bit more. I'd say Bristol's a bit more like, I don't know, warm and welcoming, like
it's
fun.
A little bit kind of countrified, isn't it?
But then like Norfolk is, you can't read or no. What is that? You got a light, boy.
I went to a beautiful seaside town there with an old pier.
Great Yarmouth.
No, not Great Yarmouth. It was somewhere else. It was very pretty.
Cromer,
and I filmed there because it looks a bit like the 1930s, 40s, 50s.
I got crabs in there.
What's that?
I got crabs in Cromer, yeah.
You mean when you were young?
Yeah, but crabbing.
Lad. Yes, you went crabbing. Here we go. It started already.
We love it. Well, how have you been? What have you been up to? You just come back from Australia.
I've been, this year, I've had a busy time. I had 3 weeks in India because I write children's books, and you're probably young enough to have maybe, no, how old are you?
31.
Not quite. But so I was doing a book tour there, going to lots of different cities and going to schools and doing literary events, things like that. It's pretty amazing when you go to another country and people know who you are. And then I got back and I went to Australia because a film of one of my books is being made. Do you know Taika Waititi? Mm-hmm. He's the star of it.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been there doing that. And the other stuff I do is I'm a dad. I've got an 11-year-old son. So I should really still be in Australia making the movie, but I just had to come back and see my son. You know?
Yeah, I guess you get that feeling of it, right?
When it's your child and you don't see them, it's like someone's cut off your arm.
Yeah.
It's weird because as much as it's sort of mental, it's sort of physical too, because you're so used to having cuddles and stuff. And my son is still very good at, he still wants to hold my hand, give me a kiss goodbye when he gets on the school coach and hug me. So I'm enjoying that as much as possible because I know that in a couple of years' time, I'll be the most embarrassing person in his life.
Yeah, you've got to just do it. I mean, I completely get that. I've got lots of daddies. So,
I say something quite nice and innocent.
Yes.
And you turn it into filth?
I do. Like, I'm from Norfolk. We have lots of daddies.
Have you ever had a sugar daddy?
I've never had a sugar daddy, no. But I don't know what it is. I feel like I get that Cher quote in my head. Where, you know, she's like, I am the man. Like, I will be the rich man. Like, I wouldn't be that person. I wouldn't do it. So I've never had a sugar daddy. What are you offering?
Without the sugar part, yes.
Yes, the sugar. Well, I haven't. I know people that have though, and I feel like I've always been like admired the idea of it.
I mean, I guess it's a relationship that both people enjoy in some way or another.
Exactly, and you get taken to nice restaurants, hopefully. So identity. This is what the whole podcast is about. I was just waving at the ghost. Identity is what this podcast is about. The pieces that make us up. So I want to go back to you being a little child. When did you realise...
I was never very little.
Never very little.
I was quite a big, chunky child. A lot of puppy fat on me.
Where did comedy come into your life?
Well, I was in a school play and I played the Queen.
Fab.
And I got some laughs. I didn't even really think it would be funny. I got some laughs, and then... as soon as you've got some laughs, you're like, oh my goodness, I want to experience that again. Because it's a high.
Yeah.
And so I just had this brilliant experience. And I thought, right, now I just want to perform at every single available opportunity. And also at school, it's nice when you have a thing. You know, there's someone who's good at, tennis. There's someone who's great at rugby. There's someone who's, very studious and can sing or whatever. And I was like, oh, he's funny, and that gave me something.
I completely relate. I remember being, I think year 4, doing a solo dance in front of the whole school to Hey Baby, that song. I don't know why I was doing it at that age.
Can you reenact it for us?
Well, I think I'd probably be, maybe I could, but I think I'd have to but there's a lot of gyrating.
Please don't.
Please don't, no. There's not enough space. There was a lot of gyrating, though, for someone that's 8 years old.
And I saw something very innocent. And then you go into something slightly off colour. No, but I'd say the thing is, also I started, because I was very interested in this, in laughter, I started watching a lot of comedy, consuming a lot of comedy. And so, I was learning a bit kind of how to do it just by listening to loads of comedy records, watching loads of old comedians. I just became obsessed by it. And then very luckily I got to meet Matt when I was older. And, we formed a friendship and then a partnership. And I don't think I would be, 1% as successful without him. So, it's been an incredible journey for me. But I'd never thought I'd get old. But I'm 53 years old.
But you've had an amazing time. You've done a lot of
but it
cool
seems
shit.
to be over.
No. No, not at all.
There's no good bits left.
Right. Well, it could be. You could still make some good bits. I think, you and Matt, I think together, such a duo. And I think finding someone that can bring that out of you is so important in comedy, right?
Yes, and I think in comedy, so much of what we did was bouncing off each other and trying to make each other laugh. And we thought if we made each other laugh or we were both laughing, then chances are people would laugh too. But also he's so incredible with all his voices and looks and everything like that. So it was very fun when we were kind of working together every single day. And he was, doing all these voices and characters and stuff like that. Me too, but I think he's much better at that. And so, a lot of the time we were laughing. Not always. Sometimes it was, going uphill. But when you're going downhill, it's very, when you're onto something and you're very exciting. And some of our best sketches we wrote in like 45 minutes just because it became a kind of a momentum.
I think that's so important as well, though, because creativity isn't linear. So it's like if you've got like deadlines and you've got to figure something out, I often find like if I've got that creativity, you get the best shit just happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was writing books as I do now. Sometimes you can sit and stare at the screen for an hour and nothing happens. And then the next hour, you write like 500 words, which are great. It's an odd one because people often say, when are you going to be finished with the script or the book? And I was like, well, I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I sit down every day and write the same amount. Sometimes I'm not very productive.
Do your publishers give you deadlines?
Yes, they do, because the book has to be out by Christmas.
Right, yeah, of course. So you've got to follow it. It's hard, though, I think, sometimes with that. Like, because obviously creativity, like I said, it isn't just black and white. It's not like, oh, I'm going to sit and be creative today. It can come in like, I always notice the most chaotic parts of my life is when the most creative stuff comes.
Really?
Yeah.
How chaotic does your life get? Because we were meant to do an interview before, And in the morning, you pulled out, and I think I saw that you were at someone's party the night before.
I wasn't at the party. I was meant to be, but I wasn't.
Oh, so you were genuinely
I was genuinely
ill.
unwell, yes.
I had some image of you sort of rolling in at sort of 9 o'clock in the morning, having been out all night.
I mean, that could have happened in the past, but that wasn't then.
Oh, okay.
No, that
so
was
you were
very
genuinely
innocently.
unwell.
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Feeling much better now, though.
You
a few
look
months
great.
later. Thank you. My new head of hair.
Yeah, you look great. At least it's good you're being honest about it.
Oh, well, I had to be, because I was like, the video of me swelling my face was hilarious. It's got something like 20 million views or something. It's
I always
stupid.
think online people like to see well-known people suffering.
Oh, absolutely.
If ever I post a video of me standing in the rain, like I went to the Maldives on holiday and it was just terrible weather, people loved it. They loved the idea of me suffering.
I think what it is, I think it's just humans, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't
it? It's like OK
funny.
Magazine and Hello. That's why everyone was reading them.
What's the thing do you think about when we see videos of people like tripping up and stuff that we like that?
It's funny. That's why
it's funny, and then we think, oh, good, it's not us. Do you think that's part of it? I don't know.
Maybe, or just because they look like a twat. I don't know.
I didn't know you'd be using that kind of language.
We could get more worse language. No, I think it depends. I feel like it can just be a bit funny if it's like, if they style it out or they're like they laugh, but if it's like a serious thing,
it's not horrible if they get seriously injured.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
I
of course.
once saw the funniest thing I've ever seen was some giant swing, and it was in a park or something, and all these elderly people had decided, I don't know why, to get on this swing, and then the thing started moving, and one by one the old people started falling off. You shouldn't find it funny, but it was the funniest thing I've ever seen, because it's almost happening like in slow motion, and it was like, what are you doing on this swing? And they're all just standing there, literally 20 people, and they started dropping off.
Were they hurt?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, it didn't look like anybody was, but it was certainly really funny. It wouldn't have been funny if they got hurt.
I guess that's it. I think it's funny when you know that it's no one's harmed, everyone's all right.
Okay.
I think that's why my swelling video did so well, because it was honestly, I looked like the Goonies, Sloth and the Goonies.
Well,
not a good look.
No, but for you, it would be a very good look.
Well, I don't know. I would like to put makeup on the face to see what I look like with all that. Probably, look like Catwoman. But
which
we love
Catwoman?
Well, not actually one of the films, just the one that had loads of plastic surgery.
Oh, the
Jocelyn.
lady.
Oh, actually,
Jocelyn. Was she called the Bride of Wildenstein? Or something like that?
I realised, but she has just passed away recently.
She has passed away, so she won't be watching. So you can say whatever you like.
But I loved her. She was fab.
She was very old when she died, I think.
Yeah. She was fab. She'd always go like Paris Fashion Week and everything, like icon.
Yeah, I mean, she became famous because she looked bizarre, but
but now everyone looks like that.
Well, not everybody, but I did see someone recently who, as a makeup artist, really lovely guy, and I sort of saw him out the corner of my eye, and I thought, oh, that's not him. He looks different. And then I realised when I got closer, he'd had a little bit of work done.
Yeah, it can change the face. I mean, I've definitely had a tweak here and there, but I think...
What have you had done?
Over the years, not so much recently, but I had a bit in my lips.
Okay. But it sort of makes sense for your alter
makes
ego,
it a bit easier.
it? Yeah.
What else? I shave my eyebrows normally. Yeah, not too much, but like I'm very open about it. I think it's like a bit
I've
Botox,
not had anything done. I think it would be a slippery slope for me.
You'd end up...
I don't think anyone cares what I look like, and I feel quite grateful because it's like I haven't got anywhere to fall from. So
well, it could make like different outfits and different characters look quite interesting.
Yes, but I do think, I don't know, I just feel funny about it, and if people knew I'd had something done, I'd feel weird. And sometimes it can go wrong.
It's true, it can do.
Jimmy Carr.
Have you...
Yes, I have.
I was going to say, when you think about so children's books and then comedy, would you say complete opposite in a way?
I think it's different.
In how your brain has to work.
Same sort of creative energy. Writing a comedy sketch might take an hour or something. Writing a book will take months. So that's different. And also we did a very rude comedy show or series of a couple of rude comedy shows. And then the books obviously can't be rude. But what kind of books did you read when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, I used to read the Bible and I used to read the dictionary. I didn't. I used to read like a lot of fantasy.
Okay.
Yeah, I was into quite a lot of fantasy stuff. Like, I mean, I guess Harry Potter because it was really big when I was a kid. Yeah, all of the like Lion, the Witch and Wardrobe stuff, like C.S. Lewis,
isn't it? So imaginative. But the thing is, some of those books they sort of push the edge a bit, and they're a bit scary or a bit sort of forbidden feeling. You know, Harry Potter takes you into quite a dark world.
It gets dark, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so I still think, even though the books are aimed at children, I don't try and make them patronizing or just cutesy. I kind of think you can have quite a sort of dangerous sense of humor. And the thing is also, when we were doing Little Britain, loads of kids loved the show because I guess it was like a cartoon series come to life. And were you watching shows that were not meant for you when you were a kid?
Yeah, absolutely.
What were you watching?
Little Britain. I was watching loads of stuff. I think, like, I remember, like, I was a bit of a goody up until I was about 11 or 12. I started being a bit more like, oh, I'm going to watch. But like, I would be like scared to watch something if my mum didn't want me to. But then I remember going to my friends and they'd have like a 15 or something like that. And we'd watch stuff. And I remember seeing stuff like Monty Python and being like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, the first time that sort of door opens to something exciting like that for me is the same Monty Python movies and also Mel Brooks movies. It's like a door is open to something else, isn't it? And often, see, when I was a kid, you know, you couldn't just watch any movie when you wanted, and so people would tell you about something and you would have to wait maybe years until you got to see it. And people would go, oh, there's a scene in Blazing Saddles where all the cowboys are farting, and you just hear about it and you hadn't seen it, and it felt rotten that your friends had seen it and you hadn't.
But I kind of missed that. I kind of missed the not mystery is not the right word, but the pace, the speed.
I tell you one thing that is quite interesting, because my son is 11, and obviously we're lucky we've got like Netflix and Disney and stuff. And when I was a kid, I liked watching TV, and I just kind of watched like what was on. So if Gone with the Wind was on one afternoon, I'd watch that. So I was exposed to a lot more things, whereas he gets to choose, and he's an 11-year-old boy. So it's like Marvel, Star Wars, Harry Potter, and it's hard to get him kind of out of watching those kind of movies and experiencing things that, you know, that are out of his comfort zone. Because I watched Humphrey Bogart movies with my dad. We watched lots of musicals as well, The Sound of Music and stuff. And a lot of these films had a big effect on me, and I can remember them really clearly, even if I haven't seen them since.
It's interesting, on the podcast, I've had a couple of people and we've had conversations about free thinking and like that kind of creative side. And I think when it's so algorithmic and you're being fed what to watch, you're kind of not even wanting to go out of your comfort zone.
No,
you know what I mean?
It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll tell you something that's quite uncomfortable. I sometimes look at X, and there was something came up of a Holocaust denial video, which I thought was disgusting.
That's crazy.
But a little part of me wanted to watch it. It was like 1 minute long. It was some documentary. And I watched it, and I was suitably disgusted by it. But because I'd watched it, I started to see that on the feed more and more videos that would reinforce that disgusting lie of Holocaust denial came up. And I thought, this is really dangerous, because it means that, you know, your opinion is never being challenged, it's being reinforced. And for something as dark and disgusting as that, it will confirm your worst instincts. So I was very freaked out by it, actually, because I thought, if you are an impressionable person and you're looking at that stuff for the wrong reasons, you're going to start believing it.
Well, there's a massive issue that's happening, I think, and it's not being discussed too much, because people like the owner of it, Elon Musk, he says, this is the new news platform. Like, we are now the world news, not the mainstream media. It's X, it's social media. But to use social media, because it has the algorithm and you're being fed all of this, as soon as you watch one video, then you see all the others.
Yeah,
and if it's not true, and like it's lies, and people start believing it, it creates even more divide. And it's a really worrying time, I think, with things like that, because there's nothing to stop that happening.
No, and there's a sort of fascist takeover, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
With Trump and Elon Musk. And it's worrying, because now truth is being questioned all the time, isn't it? There's alternate truths, alternate facts. And that wasn't, when I was growing up, it wasn't like that. There was the BBC News, and you trusted that. And that's pretty much, you know, it presented it to you in a way, you know, without any it didn't have a point of view. It was just the news. So it is worrying.
It's sensational as well, like in the sense that there's like lots of facts are made up, things just, and then that keeps you in that echo chamber of other people that believe this opinion, and it kind of breeds that hate and keeps everyone away from each other.
Which is horrible, because and also I think even in things like online stuff, it's very binary. Like you're not allowed to have a nuanced opinion. You're either for something or against something, and I don't think life is like that, and things can't be resolved like that either, with the one group just shouting at the other. It's about coming together, true, isn't it?
I mean, that's how I feel currently. Like I mean, in the past, especially 10 years ago, I was studying journalism. I was very angry and would go on Facebook rants about stuff, which I wouldn't necessarily do as much now, maybe just on here. But I think you're right in the sense that we do need to have a middle ground. Like, unfortunately, everyone on the planet lives here. We all do. But what's the end goal if everyone just hates each other? It's scary.
The thing is, we all probably ultimately want the same things.
If you break it down, yeah.
We want to be loved. We want a purpose, job or something. We want somewhere to live. We want to live in safety. We want friends. And some people want to be parents as well. And so when see people suffering around the world, I think it's horrible, because this group of people who are at war with this group of people, ultimately, they want the same things. They have much more in common than that would divide them.
Yeah, and I think that's what they kind of, I'm always like they. Who are they? Well, we don't know properly. But they kind of want that. They want everyone to be divided, because if everyone was united, they'd be like, oh, actually, this system is quite shit and only works for a certain percentage of people, and how do we make it fairer? They don't want that. So now with the fact that we have like billionaires getting involved in politics, I think is like outwardly involved in politics, not even like behind the scenes. It's quite a scary time.
No, and also he seems completely nuts as well.
Totally,
so
absolutely. Which like he's seen Azealia Banks. She'd like tweet stories about him. She used to be friends with him.
What did she say about him? I haven't read those.
Well, it is publicly on X, so I can probably say. But they used to do like acid benders.
Right, okay.
Like together, him, Grimes, and Azealia Banks. And I was like, I want that Elon Musk.
The fun Elon Musk.
Yeah, the fun Elon Musk.
The on acid Elon Musk.
Yeah, that causes like child and algebra equation and then takes acid.
I always think with Elon Musk, you can't even escape him if you go to Mars.
No, well, yeah, this is it, exactly.
He'll be there soon.
It's crazy though, isn't it, the exploration of that and trying to figure out if we could live there. Like, why not here?
Well, I do, I agree with that. But I think it's interesting, obviously, as much as I dislike him, it is interesting what he's doing with his money in terms of like space exploration, because obviously he wants to go down in history as the person who got the human race to Mars, which is is going to be always a very significant thing.
I mean, it's a big goal to go for. Once when I started my career, all I wanted was a custom Juicy Couture tracksuit. I got it.
Now look at you, babes.
And I got two. But this is going off topic a bit, but do you think that we're the only living species? Talking of Mars.
I don't think it's possible, because there are something like billions of stars, and that's
what I think.
I don't think it's possible, no.
I'd like to be open-minded enough to believe that there should be something else.
I think what interests me is how it would change the way we perceive our lives in the world if we were visited by extraterrestrials. Because would we just suddenly all have some epiphany and start to question everything around us because we've suddenly realized that we were part of something so much bigger? Probably not. People would probably watch a bit of the news and then watch Hollyoaks. Get back to normal. That's what I think.
Well, I'd like to think that maybe if they were to start attacking us, that might be when the world comes together.
Well, there is that. Yeah, that happens in movies, doesn't it? I was going to write a children's book about aliens coming, and it was like on the first day they meet the president, they meet the Pope, and that sort of goes on like that. And then this sort of like celebrity Big Brother.
Yeah.
I thought that's probably what would happen.
Yeah.
After a while, people get a little bit bored, and then they just had to go back to their planet because no one cared anymore.
That's hilarious. You should do it.
I may write it one day.
Where do you look to for inspiration?
You.
Oh.
I think if you're a writer, I think it's like you've just got to keep your eyes and ears open at all times, because you never know when a good idea might come along. So I'm curious, not bi-curious, I'm curious as a person. And so everybody I want to talk to and hear their stories. So okay, so I'm in a taxi, but I want to hear this. I want to hear about their life. Anyone, who I meet, I'm immediately curious because you never know when an idea for a story might come along. I guess it's maybe a bit like people writing songs. It's not exactly like there's a well where all these things come from. It's just more somehow they're sort of good at plucking things out of the air. And so that's what I do. Some is just my imagination, and other things are inspiration from things I see around me. Years ago, there was a guy who escaped from his old people's home because he wanted to go to Dunkirk and be reunited with his old comrades. Do you remember? Did you follow the story?
Yeah.
It was probably about 15 years ago. And I thought, oh, that's so good. I had another idea to write a story about dementia and an escape from an old people's home. And I put these together and wrote this book called Grandpa's Great Escape. So I was inspired by something real. I was sort of inspired by the movie The Great Escape. I wanted to write something about dementia. And somehow all these things kind of came together. And then I had a story. It's curiosity, I think, of what's going on in the world that can make you a writer.
I think curiosity is a great way to look at it, because I think if you stay curious, you're always going to find inspiration anywhere.
That's what I've always said, babe.
Stay curious.
Stay curious.
Never question. Stay curious. No, keep asking questions. That's important.
Yeah.
I think there's someone. Do you know Princess Julia?
Yes.
Yeah,
I've
icon.
met Princess Julia.
She's amazing. I love her. She, for me, is someone that, she has been around since I first came to London, was going out, she was DJing. I remember meeting her, was being starstruck by her, because of just her cultural history. But she's still curious to this day. Goes to everyone she meets, she's so lovely. New queens and artists that come up through the scene. She speaks to everyone, gets to know them, and I just think that's so lovely. She wants to know their stories.
I love people like that. I got to meet Lee Bowery, which was incredible. I went to see him in a play. It was actually in King's Cross, where we are now. It was called The Homosexual. And it was very funny. He came in, I don't know who wrote the play now, but he came in and made this amazing entrance in one of his incredible outfits with lots of fur and stuff. And then a little while later, I was in a nightclub and I met him and I said, "You made the greatest entrance in the history of theatre." And I was really pleased I got to meet him, because obviously he is. Yeah. I was such a fan, but also he's become so iconic, hasn't he?
Yeah, totally.
And he's celebrated now in a way that wasn't before. So, yeah, that world. I used to love that world of going out and stuff. But I'm 53. I'm a dad. It's different. But me and my girlfriend, we used to go to all those gay clubs and things like Love Muscle and stuff. And we'd dance all night. And
when was this?
This was the 1920s. No,
I was going to say.
The 90s. The 90s, before you were born.
Taboo, was that in the 80s? Taboo was the
80s. So I wasn't part of that, which was the sort of Boy George era. But yeah, there wasn't the same personalities in the 90s, but I used to love the fact, the thing in gay clubs is it was very friendly, it was really fun, and people dressed up. So me and my girlfriend used to dress up a bit, not as well as you used to dress up, but there would be people who would be stars of the nightclub. Yeah. There'd be someone just dressed as a devil. Yeah. Something. I remember amazing makeup. And you go, wow, you've just decided to go out to Brixton on a Saturday night dressed as a devil. That is so cool. And it makes the whole thing even more surreal. So I love that Clubland. And also I got to see quite a lot of drag acts as well. There was an amazing drag act called Regina Fong. You've ever heard of Regina Fong?
No.
Hilarious. He had a few things that he did. That he had this thing where he did the music from Skippy the Bush Kangaroo and danced around the stage and all these amazing routines. And I also saw a very early performance by Lily Savage as well.
Amazing.
Absolutely hilarious.
Can you remember where it was?
It was at the Vauxhall Tavern.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, because I think, I don't know, maybe every Tuesday night they had a drag act or something.
Lily was there quite a lot, and I remember hearing a story of when the police raided them and the way she spoke to them. She kicked. It was meant to be hilarious. She was iconic.
Yeah,
one of the best. And I always found it interesting, how nowadays, and I wonder what your take on this is. Nowadays, it feels like we had a bit of a swing where everything felt a bit everyone's more accepting of people now. But now I feel like we're going the opposite way, where actually if you go to Clubland, there's less people dressing up, being creative, expressing themselves in that way, how they used to, and even up to Sink the Pink days. But I feel like the media has, and people have kind of shifted that opinion. And especially with drag, drag's also had that that kind of start to have that swing. Like X is a place where there's a lot of hate for people. Like it's quite a negative time. And I often think like Lily Savage was like primetime TV, you know, like, I remember seeing a performance, Lily Savage, Cilla Black, and Barbara Windsor.
Barbara Windsor, yes, I've seen that. They do a song from Gypsy. Yeah.
And I thought like that was iconic. And if there was something to happen now, everyone would be like, that's outrageous, that's censored. I'm like, it feels like we've gone back in a way.
I mean, I suppose for some people, there is a rise of the right, isn't there, that's sort of worrying in places across Europe and America. But it's really hard to say what everyone's thinking and feeling. I mean, obviously, there are, you know, mainstream people who are pretty alternative, like yourself, and that's exciting. I mean, personally, I find all of that exciting. I find people dressing up exciting. I love creativity. I love people doing it just for their own pleasure. That's what I loved about going out to like Love Muscle stuff. Exactly. It's just seeing people who are just doing it for their own fun. And so I personally love all that stuff. I love that young people are idealistic and have interest in their identities and want to sort of push away everything that's gone before. It's exciting. It's exciting. Change is exciting. And people completely being themselves is exciting. But it's hard, isn't it? There's often a pushback to things. But I still think, you know, like RuPaul's Drag Race, which I know saw you on, is, you know, it's a big show, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, massive.
My mum would watch that show and enjoy it. Yeah. She's 81. So, but then again, we grew up watching, you know, Hinge and Bracket. Have you ever heard of Hinge and Bracket? You should Google Hinge and Bracket. Okay. It's this act was this two... it was two men playing two old ladies, and they were very, very funny. And Barry Humphries as Dame Edna Everage, which my granny did not believe was a man. So these things have been part of mainstream entertainment, but I suppose they've just shifted and changed, haven't they? Drag's a little different. Drag used to just be kind of comedy acts, really, didn't it?
In the UK, definitely it was wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah. Like it was like taking a piss. It was less about the polish. It was more like the rawness, the wit, the humor. And I definitely think, drag has changed in a way where you have campy, fabulous queens, but then you can also have like more fashion or makeup. And so I think, there's definitely
I really
a shift.
like how creative it is.
Exactly. And I think it's amazing.
In Drag Race, I love seeing that it's so much more than just being on a dress and miming some songs or something. Yeah. It's actually about the creativity of how you look, your identity and all those kind of things.
Totally. And I think for me...
They're like superheroes because you have an alter ego. And that's really exciting. Who wouldn't want to have an alter ego? And all I know as an actor and playing parts in comedies is that when you're, as a character, you feel very free. Yeah. It's the strangest thing because you're not you anymore. So you kind of look in the mirror and you're someone different. And I don't know, you feel a lot more ready to say or do something you'd never normally do.
Well, it's like being a kid and dressing up. Like it's a freeing feeling.
Did you dress up as a kid?
Yeah, I did.
So when did that start and what were you dressing up as?
I would wear the purple velvet dress I think my mum I was fruity from a young age, if you believe it. And I'd like paint myself, I think I was 2 years old. My cousin painted me head to toe in gloss, white clear gloss, and I walked down like I was an art installation. And then my mum was like, okay, you're a bit weird. And then she just kind of allowed it, you know, like allowed me. I'd like walk around with towels on my head, like dancing to Britney Spears. And then like in nursery, I remember I would have a rota for when the girls could wear the purple velvet dress because I wanted to wear it. Okay. So the purple velvet dress and pearl necklace, and it started there.
Well, I interviewed Tom Ford once, who I love and respect, and he said that before he went to school was when he felt most free, because he said there was no one sort of regulating social norms, as in there weren't other kids saying you can't do this or you can't do that. And he said he used to like dressing up too. And
I had the same.
Yeah, and so he was just totally free. And it's interesting, isn't it? When we go to school, we're suddenly wanting to fit in. But before that, we're already expressing ourselves and who we are.
And I think that's where the whole, like, there's a lot of like conversation in psychology and therapy and stuff about like finding your inner child and owning that. And I think that's a really important thing.
I'm really lucky because as a performer doing comedy, dressing up and writing children's books, I feel like I've never had to grow up. And that's a wonderful thing. So I've never I've never lost that thing of playing. Because I see my son play, my nephews play, and how free they are and how they go from one character to another in the blink of an eye, and they're suddenly a dinosaur and then they're a spaceman or something. And I love that. And I suppose you're still holding on to a little bit of that as an actor, as a comedian, as a writer.
I think if you can find the humour in in darkness, that's the best way to deal with anything. Like no matter what happens, if you can like always remember to like have a laugh and remember to just not take life so seriously, and it can be hard, can have its ups and downs. But I think I had that as well with, very similar to Tom Ford, me and Tom, that I also was told what to do when I started going to school and
to conform.
And I was told my sexuality before I even knew what sexuality was, like by other other kids whose older brothers would say that I was gay, or like their mum would say it, or their family. And I think like it's so crazy that like that was pushed to me, because I started being like, oh, well, maybe I am like, do you know what I mean? It was not the nicest.
Well, when I was a kid, being gay was like the worst thing you could be called.
Yeah.
And I was naturally camp. And I used to play Wonder Woman in the playground and because the 70s Wonder Woman was big. And
she was fab as well.
Oh, she's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. And so I used to get camp and picked on. And then I think I started performing, doing comedy as a way of going, okay, well, you've called me, effeminate, camp, all that kind of thing. Well, I'm going to be the campist. I'm going to be the most effeminate. And now I'm going to turn it to my advantage. And I think that sometimes happens with people. You use it as a way to control the situation. No one wants to be laughed at, but to be part of the joke, to be laughed with is exciting.
Yeah, I think I ended up playing into that, but then I started rebelling a bit when I was like 15 with fashion and finding my people at school, and that's like who we really started kind of being weirdos, walk around in like
weirdos are great.
Exactly, we need more weirdos.
I love weirdos. If I see people in the street dressed up, dressed in some unusual way, I always say, you look fabulous.
Yeah.
You look so cool. You look great. And sometimes they're quite young people, like fashion students or something. Don't ever lose that. You look amazing. Because the world's so boring if everyone's the same. And I love people who buck the trend of these things. And,
we need those. We need those people.
Free, yeah.
We need those people. I think free thinkers are so important to have. Free thinkers, not even just free thinkers, but like people that go against societal norms of what you're meant to look like or be like. And I think the issue, what I was saying earlier with about the conversation feels like it's kind of gone a bit backwards and a bit darker. I think it's language changing, and people don't like change that much, really. Like a lot of people don't. So the idea of so I use the idea of non-binary when I was on Drag Race, and I discussed how I felt about when I was younger and I wanted to be expressive, and I was so naturally dancing to Britney Spears and doing all of the things that were seen as feminine or girly that felt so innate to me. But then I also I don't know, can do masculine things, but because I've never really felt like I fit in either.
You didn't give any examples of that.
Of masculine things.
You had a lot
played
of
football
examples
a few times
of the feminine things you do, and then you went, I do masculine things.
I played football, a few times, so I never really understood. And then when I came to London and started seeing the weirdos in the nightclubs, that's when I was like, you could do what you want and be who you want.
Isn't it wonderful?
It was so incredible, and it was such a big epiphany for me in that moment. But the idea of non-binary, that language is relatively new in terms of mainstream
it is new.
conversations. But
I don't think it is new. When I was a student, we'd never heard of it, and I don't think I'd really heard of it until I don't know.
I believe it
maybe
came
10 years ago or something.
I don't know if I get this wrong, but 2015 was the first times it started getting properly used in mainstream. I think Judith Butler had said it in the 90s though, but it was gender non-conforming, or gender non-conforming was the original, and that was so common. David Bowie was playing with androgyny and gender. I guess it was androgyny was the word.
Well, David Bowie was beautiful, wasn't he? He looked amazing.
And Prince and
loved Prince. Had dinner with Prince.
Oh, we love that.
No, everyone can say that.
But that's what I mean. There were people doing it. There were weirdos. There were people deviating from that. But
people leaning into it.
I guess when it becomes this is this now, it's a label. People disagree with that. Whereas if it's not labelled and it's just someone that's been a bit kooky, then it's kind of not a threat. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know. I suppose some people, there'll always be people, kind of conservative people who don't like things changing and don't like what they don't understand and are full of prejudices for one reason or another, and it's sad, but generally people pushing the boundaries get pushed all the time, and the world becomes a more interesting, exciting place. And young people now growing up watching yourself, they're now going to be aware of a lot more possibilities for their lives, for their sense of identity. And that's a good thing, because they'll get to sort of choose a bit more how they want to present themselves, I'm assuming. I'm sure this is probably ultimately a relatively small number of people, because most people are just getting on with, I don't know, with the life that was laid out for them. But I still think, you know, just having a view into alternative lifestyles is very exciting.
I do as well, and like subcultures, I feel like were always such a big inspiration for me growing up, and like seeing different subcultures over the years, whether it was punks, new romantics, like the way that fashion and music went together. Like I loved that, and I feel like there's less of that so much now, and I would love that to become more of a thing. You know, I want to see who's like coming up with a new fashion and new looks, and I feel like we need to push that. Like it's something that's so important to uphold culture and creativity in ways that allow you to be expressive, allow you to be free, allow you to find inspiration everywhere.
But we have Gaga.
We do.
There's a few interesting. Sam Smith went down a very interesting route with his last album and his sort of identity, and his looks were extraordinary, weren't they?
Oh, yeah,
I couldn't believe it. I mean, it looked extraordinary, but it took me a while to sort of calibrate because he'd sort of presented himself in a suit before and stuff like that. But I thought this is exciting. Even if you don't like it, this is exciting.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I guess where I'm coming from in a way, I guess I see stuff online now because everyone can have an opinion. Like what you said earlier, you could either be for or against. You can't just be in the middle or nuanced or like not actually care that someone's doing that. It's like, oh, I disagree with this, or I don't like that. So
it's just a small number of people, and it's not worth giving it attention. Hate is going to hate.
Hate is going to hate. Potato is going to potato.
And you just can't worry about it, and it's a bore. But I never think you can win everyone over, and obviously
that would be boring anyway.
And you know, it's like reading the comments on like the Mail Online or something like that. If you happen to be there is no purpose reading them. Nothing good can come of it. And, you know, I was married to a supermodel, and we'd be, you know, coming out of a restaurant photographs, and then people would write these horrible comments about her, and you think, no, she is one of the most beautiful women in the world. And so, you know, and sometimes I would become upset, and I'd say, look, you know, imagine what these people's lives are like.
Like, what are they? You know, they've got to scroll past the ads to get there.
Why would anyone do that? It's so mean-spirited. So I don't know. You just got to zone that stuff out because it doesn't help you in any way.
I agree. I think I don't necessarily care about anyone commenting negative to me. It's more it's more for other people when they do it to other people, or like it's friends of mine or trans people or anyone that I feel like is being kind of attacked. Yeah,
no one wants to see that. And prejudice is horrible, and racism is horrible, homophobia, transphobia, all these things is horrible. And you know, it's horrible that these things exist. But I don't know, you know, I wish I had the answer of why, you know, of how you can ever get through this. The only thing I'd say is that sometimes my mum and dad, you know, my dad was born in the 1930s, and my mum and both of them were born in the 1930s. You know, they had some of the prejudices of people you might imagine who lived through that time. But as soon as they got to know people who were gay or black or whatever, they were completely on board with it. And I think it just came from a place of fear. You know, it was just people are fearful of what they don't know. And then when they finally kind of meet a trans person, they go, oh, I don't know what I was worried about. It's just a person.
Yeah, this is it. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's that, and I think
human approach.
I think that's where it comes from. And there's so much of that, isn't there? Some people, it's otherness. People are very scared by otherness. To me, where I come from is otherness is exciting. I love otherness. It's like what makes the world interesting. But some people are fearful of it, and I do think that's why I hate the thing online where it's like for or against. Because I do think if people got together and talked, they would find, I imagine, a hell of a lot of common ground, and they wouldn't be scared anymore or angry anymore, any of those kind of things.
Last question. It's just going to ask you.
It's flown by.
Yeah. If you could think about what the term identity means, not just to you, but to kind of anyone, how do you think people should view identity?
Well, I think the most important thing, I know it sounds a bit corny, but to be yourself. Because I don't think you necessarily need to define yourself in some way that goes along with how other people define yourself, because you can just be you. And also your identity can change over time. My views have changed over time. my personality's changed over time, and so I don't think it needs to be fixed. But I think the main thing and the message, the first children's book I wrote was called The Boy in the Dress. And when I go into schools and mention it, 10 years ago, you used to get a laugh. You'd say, oh, there's a boy in the dress, and the kids would laugh. Now they don't laugh because they know someone, maybe a boy who wears a dress to school. And I say to them, the book is all about celebrating being different. I say the world would be very boring if we're all the same. And I say your difference, whatever it might be, is your superpower. So it is something to be celebrated. And that's why I love you. And that's why I came up to you in the lounge, business class, not first, business class at Heathrow Airport, because I thought you are fabulous and I need to tell you.
Thank you. You are fabulous too. That means a lot. David Walliams, thank you so much for coming on The Pieces. I've got to come on your podcast.
Yes, we'll do it. This is the only reason I'm here.
Yeah. We'll do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.